Is it true that whenever you need to buy a birthday present for someone, you just start a new business and use that money to pay for it?
Hey guys, my name is Young. I'm a business coach, a fractional CFO, and a avid business builder. After decades of working at really great companies like Apple and Starbucks and hypergrowth scale startups like Limelight Health and Phil's Coffee, I've taken a ton of different experiences and melded into what did I do today, which is I help businesses scale past the $1 million mark, and then I help scale businesses being a fractional CFO. And then in my free time, I actually build my own businesses, and I'm up to 13 businesses now. And I plan on opening about two or three a year. And I'm super excited to be here and talk to you guys. Welcome to the Test Kitchen podcast.
All right, cool. Welcome, Young. Thank you for joining. Thanks for just giving us your time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks for having me,
Before,
man.
yeah, before I start this podcast, I must ask, is it true that whenever you need to buy a birthday present for someone, you just start a new business and use that money to pay for it?
I know it's really bad. It's gotten to the point where it's almost funny and whimsical feeling, but it's a pretty serious thing to buy a business for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm terrible at buying people birthday presents, so I always have to outsource it or delegate it. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Hmm. Cool. How did we meet, by the way? I think I met you at Dallas Startup Week. That was the first
Yeah.
time we met.
Yeah, it was almost a year and yeah, almost a year ago at Dallas Startup Week. That's right. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
What a fun
Wow.
relationship. What a fun journey we've been on.
I know, right? I know. Ichan told me about you, and he was like, "You have to meet Young. Like, he'll tell you the story of like his time at Starbucks, not Starbucks, but Apple." And
Yeah.
I was like looking for you. You're probably like, "Who's this random guy?" Like, I was like, "Hey."
I loved it. I mean, I thought you were very genuine and you're very earnest and very well intentioned. And it came across even in person, but also through digital because we met in person a year ago, but we built our relationship virtually.
Hmm.
And that's been super fun, man. And I've been enjoying every moment of it. And I'm glad that we're becoming friends.
Yep, yep. Same here. It's been amazing. And
Yeah.
also, I've been stealing all of your bits of advice. But for everyone who doesn't know you, where are you originally from?
So originally from San Francisco Bay Area, born and raised, and lived all over the Bay. Born in Oakland, and yeah, just lived everywhere across the Bay Area. My dad was an entrepreneur himself, and he moved us around quite a bit. And kind of was just a hopper, one of those kids that got to go to a new school almost every year of his life. And we didn't really settle down until about middle school, I believe. And then, yeah, so it was kind of fun growing up with my dad being an entrepreneur. And then about 5 years ago, I moved to Austin, Texas.
Okay. All right. So, that's funny. I've talked to a couple of entrepreneurs now, and they
Mhm.
have that same story of their childhood life was just very chaotic of them hopping from school to school to school. I talked to one startup founder. Her name was Zoya, and she was like, every time I meet someone, then I have to start over again and then make a whole new batch of friends. So I
Yeah.
guess maybe that's the key to being an entrepreneur. If that happens, when you grow up, you'll be a entrepreneur.
I don't think it's a requirement, but it definitely helps for sure because it kind of goes back to the whole adage of like, you become who you hang out with. And,
Hmm.
your mom always says, choose your friends wisely. It's the same thing with like family. I mean, if you grow up in an entrepreneur family, then entrepreneurship seems more normal, less risky, and it's a lot more palatable because it's just kind of what people do versus like if you don't have an entrepreneur family. I'm not saying you can't be an entrepreneur, but
Hmm.
it definitely will be a little bit more foreign.
Hmm. I can see that for sure.
Yeah,
Do you think that had a big effect on kind of you growing into building, multiple businesses?
totally. Yeah, absolutely. My dad had a huge impact on me wanting to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I think is probably one of the main reasons I even the moment I turned 18 and was an adult, I started my first business, and I definitely would say that he had a huge inspiration in it. And not necessarily because I wanted to be like him, but just because it just was so like it was so normal, and it
Hmm.
was just the thing to do. And then being able to watch someone go from very low socioeconomic status to multiple levels higher in one lifetime was really interesting to watch for me, and being able to see someone take us from, low income to high income was really fun. And being able to see how he built equity to do that, and knowing that it's
Hmm.
possible with business ownership, and, kind of opening your eyes to a bigger world.
Hmm. I can see that. Were there any things that he taught you along the way that you still apply now?
Yeah. So some of the big things that he's taught me were really around like preparedness. So doing the deep work to be prepared to win. So if you're trying to do
Mm,
something, do all the work in advance of a meeting or advance of an opportunity, and just be ready to like knock it out of the park, and do your research, do your homework, sharpen your tools, just be ready and be prepared. And then when the opportunity arises, whether it's convenient or not, or you're ready or not, raise your hand and say yes. Have the leadership courage to jump on an opportunity, and then figure it out as you go, and outwork the people that want to do it, and that want to compete with you.
mhm,
And then the last thing is just put yourself out there, and make sure that you're increasing your surface area, so you have more access to opportunity. So be prepared, have the leadership courage to say yes when the opportunity arises, and create more opportunity by putting yourself out there.
okay, that's perfect. You can write that on a poster and just look at that every
Yeah, yeah,
day.
it's definitely a winning strategy. I mean, like you really can't lose if you do those three things. Obviously, it does. It's not a guarantee, but your chances of succeeding are much higher if you do those three things. Yeah, so it's a
Mhm.
good it's a good lesson. The other thing that he taught me, which was really fun at a younger age, was this whole concept of like decision matrix, and like
Okay.
no regrets, like kind of making decisions without much information. Like I remember even as a young kid going to like an ice cream shop, and I viscerally remember him saying you can get two scoops, and then one of my questions to the staff member was, "Oh, can I have two flavors?" And
Uh-huh.
she's like, "Yeah, you can." I'm like, "Okay, great. I'll take a strawberry and chocolate." And then he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You can only pick one flavor." And I'm like, "She literally said I could have two flavors." And he's like, "But I'm telling you that you can only have one, and you need to make a decision, and you need to be happy with it." And it was a really weird thing to teach me, but in hindsight I loved it, because
Mhm,
so much of business and so much of life is, making a decision with limited information, and then perspective on gratitude, and your ability to perceive it in a way that's good or bad, and understanding that not everything is great, and nothing is great, actually. Everything is pros and cons, right? There's good and bad to everything, and being able to understand that and make a decision on it and accept it for what it is pretty powerful stuff. Yeah.
mhm. I agree. I think we talked about that, in your recent LinkedIn post, decisions on decisions on decisions. That's like in my perspective, that's one of the hardest things, when you start your own venture, anything, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. Decisions on decisions on decisions. That's right. I posted a LinkedIn post on this, but the job of an owner is so ripe with decisions, and it's just never ending. And even not making a decision, unfortunately, is making a decision if you're an owner. And so you
Mhm,
don't have the luxury of even avoiding the decision, because non-decision is also a decision.
mhm.
Mhm.
Correct. Okay. So, you mentioned you started your first business when you were 18. Did you go to
Mhm.
college or did you just say, "No, I'm gonna make my own college?"
I went to college, and I started my business while I was in college, and I ran it while I was in college, and I sold it while I was in college. And I actually sold it because I was worried that I was going to get kicked out of college, and or I would never go back and finish college. I just was
Okay.
at a teetering point in my life where I was like, man, business is so much more fun. I'm learning way more than I'm learning in business school, and the stuff that they were teaching was just more um, fundamental and macro, and very prescriptive. But like being able to learn it and then go in real life and do it, it just felt like the value immediately decreased as I was doing both at the same time, going to school for my business degree, and also running a business at the same time. And so I was getting to the point where I wanted to drop out, to be honest with you. And I just
Mm.
said, hey, I don't know if I'll ever get my degree. And I'll just, because if I drop out, I'm going to keep building businesses and I'll never finish it and I'll never get it. And I said, man, what if I regret that? And so I didn't want to live with regret. So I sold the business, finished school, and then started businesses again. But in hindsight, now that I'm like much older and wiser, I wish I dropped out.
Oh, okay. Why is that? Because well, I guess I know why, but you tell me
Yeah.
why.
I mean, it's not for everybody, right? I think if you're
Yeah.
getting like a specialist degree and you're getting a degree that's going to help you do something that's very niche or deep and narrow, I think that that's really valuable skill. I think that it's very important for you to learn how to be a doctor, and you should get trained on that. You're a specialist. You're an engineer, or you're a you know rocket scientist. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of these like niche careers where you should get educated because they're regulated and they require deep level of academia and study. But I think for the vast majority of us that don't have that kind of niche passion, we're not trying to learn how to do heart surgery and these kind of niche things. Like I feel like a lot of us can get by without it and learn it in the practical world. And I think in my generation of college was that's kind of when like the whole system was starting to open up with the internet and then YouTube University and just the access to knowledge and information was just starting to like really blossom back then in the late 90s. And so I
Hmm.
think it's like at that point it was just hard to justify and feel and understand. But knowing what I know now and seeing how much it's blossomed in 2000, in the 2000s even, it's kind of nonsensical. Like it's I just for example, like I was talking to one of my staff members the other day. We were building out some sort of a portal for a
Hmm.
fundraise that we're doing, and we had a web developer build it out, and then eventually we wanted to build a little ticker thing, and then this person said, oh, we have to slow down the thing, I am busy, it's going to cost a couple $100 for me to add that. And I'm just like I told my staff, I'm like, just Google it or chat GPT it. And they literally chat GPT'd it and they said copy this thing into there, and then we built the ticker ourselves in less than 3 minutes.
Wow.
And just the access to resources and tools is just so phenomenal now, right? And I'm not
Hmm.
saying that was a complicated thing, but examples like that make it so much more easier for me to go, is it important to have that technical knowledge at school? And it's not. And so I don't think it is anyways for me personally in what I do in my business, and it's not really relevant. The only thing that it really helped me with was networking and building relationships, and I think so
Mm.
much of my time in school wasn't spent doing that because I didn't know that that was the value back then.
Hmm.
And so in hindsight I regret it because I didn't maximize the relationship building that I should have done when I was at school and building the network. Now knowing what I know in life, it's that you got to be really good and competent at something so that you can provide value to the world and people. But more importantly than competency is likability. And the world revolves around relationships. And so if I had known that in college, I would have spent most of my time building relationships and networking versus trying to value the academia knowledge that I was getting, because it started to devalue as I was going through school.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm starting to see that shift too. I think it's the shift in society and just the way the world operates, and the fact that we have access to just so many tools now. Like the barrier to entry for anything, it has decreased tremendously in the past just 10 years,
Yeah.
let alone like 20 years ago. So I definitely can see that trend. Like I always tell people, unless you're going to be like a lawyer or something where you, like you said, you need credentials or a doctor, then it really doesn't matter. I mean, I went to school for software engineering and I had the same like sentiment. I spent all this time coding and then I got a job and I literally spent 6 months on the job learning how to do the job. And I told myself I could have just skipped the college and just came here and it would have been the same outcome.
Yeah, especially with software engineering, because I mean, what I've heard is that like by the time you actually get out of school, the institutions have to move so much slower than the real
Hmm.
world that the actual like architecture of it's already antiquated by the time you graduate and get into the real
It
world. And
is,
so
yeah,
they're like years behind us because it's just an institution and they have to get it approved, they have to go through the red tape, and then so once they actually launch the curriculum and you graduate from it, they've already gone to like 4 or 5 different iterations of that
exactly.
architecture. And so it's almost like not even, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Hmm. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, it's really just a brain training game at that point.
Yeah.
But so I guess the most fascinating thing that I thought about your career was that you were at Apple while Steve Jobs was alive. Like honestly, when I heard that, I was like, that's crazy. Like that's like
Yeah.
you were there with an icon. Tell me about like your career from like 18 years old. You were very mature enough to realize that I should sell this business so I can get a degree at least. But from that point to the point of Apple, Did you go straight to working at Apple? Was there anything in between? And
Yeah.
then next question
Yeah,
behind that, I'm
so
just gonna ask you
yeah,
a ton of stuff
I'll give
about
you
it.
the short version because it's a long story. I've done a lot of stuff. In my 20s, when they say like you should try everything you can in your 20s, I probably overdid that, and I want to say I had at least 50 jobs, in my
What?
20s. Yeah, I mean, I just whenever I was
Wow.
interested in something, I would just go get a job. I wanted to learn how to I wanted to learn how to make sushi. So I became a sushi head apprentice for like 3 months. And I mean, just random stuff like that. Whenever I was interested in something, I just was like a avid learner and curious person. And so anything I was interested in, I just like got a job and did it for a few months or did it for half a year. And I
Mhm.
was a terrible employee. I mean, because imagine getting trained and then quitting, but anything I was interested in, I just did it. So I will say the big landmarks are that I went to Starbucks afterwards. And
Mhm.
the thesis behind Starbucks was that after we sold the restaurant, me and my business partner, we were a lot smarter and we realized that we were incredibly lucky that that business was successful. It wasn't by skill, and so we said, "Hey, we should go really learn. We want to do another business together, but we should go learn how to do this business better." And so we wanted to do a Japanese restaurant or a coffee shop. And so she went to go
Mm.
wait tables at a Japanese restaurant, and I worked at Starbucks. And then for
Oh,
6 months, we learned the
okay.
business, and then we regrouped, and then we talked about, she's like, I know where they get their fish. I know how they organize it. I know their deployment. I get the cogs and I get the models. And I'm like, the same at Starbucks. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand the mechanics. I understand how the physics of the business work. And she's like, okay, so which one are we doing? And I'm like, I love working here, and so I'm gonna stay. And she's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I I enjoy it. Like it's a really interesting company to me, and it's a
Mhm.
fascinating company because they've literally optimized and operationalized everything. I mean, it's an incredible business, and
Mm.
especially back then, maybe even more so than now. But back then, it was just an insane business and so well organized, and they did things that were just unbelievably illogical, like 401k match for 20 hours a week, medical benefits, college tuition. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
insane stuff. And I'm like, how does this even make business sense? And so I was just very curious about how they really focused on employee engagement and
Mhm.
that whole aspect of it. And it was very kumbaya and just really fascinating business model. And so I stayed there and I grew pretty fast there, and I ended up helping open up a bunch of new stores and did a lot of fun things for them. And I was their spokesperson and model for a couple of their international ad campaigns. And I've done a lot of random things for Starbucks that were very notable. And that got the attention of the Apple execs that got poached from Starbucks, right? And so Apple retail, when they first launched, were stealing people from like Ritz Carlton and Nordstrom's and that whole
Mm.
sphere of like kind of people. And then there was a whole wave of Starbucks execs that got recruited in as it started to develop and launch. And then I got recruited by some of the Starbucks executives that knew about me
I
to
see.
the Steve Jobs store because it was such a crazy store. It was a very, very hard store to manage. Just high volume, insane sales, tons of staff, like 180 people, just crazy, and then Steve would live there, and he would live 6 blocks away, so he'd periodically come in, and it's just a very high pressure store, and so that's kind of what I did there for about a
Uh,
year. And then I started a bunch of businesses, and then I failed a bunch of businesses, and then I got a job at Phil's Coffee, and then helped them scale that out to 60 locations across the country. And then I got a job at Limelight Health, and then did insurance technology, and then we scaled that out to acquisition for a nine-figure acquisition, and then got a job building robot baristas at Cafe X, and then had a midlife crisis and had some kids and moved myself to small town Texas, and so now I live north of Austin in a very small town, a population of 4,000. And I just do consulting and coaching, and I help other business owners and build my own businesses.
that career is like 10 different careers in like a single person.
I don't know, man. It was all really, really fast. And I think that it was just very, very fortunate to be at the right time at the right place. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I learned a ton, right? And so that was really, really fortunate is that, like, the variety of work that I got to do and experience was really tremendous in helping me be a really good consultant.
I can see that. I mean, you had to do something for the Starbucks execs who were poached by Apple to remember, hey, I remember that guy Young. Let me bring him in. He'll do what we need,
Y
to be successful.
Yeah,
Was there anything that you actually did at Starbucks to make them like recognize you or like
t
even remember who you were?
totally.
Any tips on that? Yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I did that were notable, I guess, were that, I ran profitable stores. I was at Starbucks at a time where they were growing at an astronomical clip. It was an incredible novel concept, and everyone loved it, and they couldn't make money fast enough. I mean, it was just unbelievable growth. And so there was a point where they were opening 2 stores a day, and it was just insane amount of growth, right? So you're just talking a
Wow.
ton of stores opening, ton of people getting hired, and there was a high concentration on the culture and the feel, right? So having happy
Mm-hmm.
employees, engaged employees, taking care of your people, and all of those things. And so inadvertently, the pendulum is that you start hiring that fast, you will lose some some systems and some processes. And so what you saw were that a lot of managers that got promoted into the manager position didn't actually know how to run a business. They were just incredibly good customer service people that had great barista skills and were really nice to people. And so
Mm,
you promoted these people into these manager roles because you needed bodies because you were growing so fast, and they fit the culture,
mm-hmm.
and they just ran pretty shitty businesses. And so there were a lot of unprofitable businesses. And so I was pretty successful in that. Like, I was good at fixing stores, so I got sent around to fix stores, and I got moved around quite a bit, and I was really good at fixing things. Um, and then I would just like fix it and then get moved to the next one, and just that's kind of what I did for Starbucks. And then my district manager was really great, and he was a really good mentor of mine. He
Mm-hmm.
told me that he wanted me to stay at one store and take something from bad to good, and then take it from good to great. And so that was a really fun lesson for me. And so I stayed at one store for a little too long, and I started getting really bored and depressed. And it was like really not fun for me because I wanted to go back to fixing a store, fixing a problem. And he just kept me there. And that's kind of where I was forced to learn how to go from good to great. And I was able to find something that was more interesting to me outside of my store. So I operationalized it. I became a training center. So I trained all the external executives and internal promoted people into my store so they could learn their skills inside of my store. I started volunteering and donating my time a lot because my store was
Mm-hmm.
so operational that I didn't need to technically be there all the time. And Starbucks offered incredible vacation benefits, and I was there for 4 years. And so I earned,
Mm,
like, I want to say, like 38 days off a year. So I worked like
okay.
4 day weeks for the vast majority of the year because that's just how much vacation you earn. And so instead of taking big breaks, I just worked 4 days, and it was really fun. And then I that opened me up to volunteer. Like, I volunteered like 20 or 30 hours a week
Oh
because I would
wow.
work. Yeah, I would work on a Sunday. I would work on a Sunday morning shift to I'm sorry, like a Sunday closing shift to, like, I would just basically bunch my hours up so that it's just like jammed into 4 days, and then I would have like essentially 4 other days to like have off, and
Mm-hmm.
I would go volunteer. And so I joined nonprofit boards. I started learning about the nonprofit world. I started doing a lot of stuff like that, and that led me to getting a bunch of awards for Starbucks as a community leader. And then inevitably, I met a nonprofit that worked with people with Down syndrome and special needs,
Mm,
and I just got really compelled and called to hire someone with special needs. And I asked Starbucks if we could do this and how to do it. And I started reaching out to corporate and learning how to do that. And they inevitably told me, here's the plan and here's how we do it. Let me see if we can allocate resources from the PR fund or from our workforce fund, or let's see if a government subsidy can come. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't want like a subsidy. Like, I just want to
mm-hmm.
hire someone with special needs. Like, I don't want it to be special. Like, I just want someone with Down syndrome to work here. And they're like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, how would we? And it was just really, it was incredibly uncomfortable having these conversations because I didn't really know how to articulate it, and I didn't know what was
Mm-hmm.
PC and what was what. But it took me like 9 months to figure it out. And ultimately, I figured out that if I made a little over $40,000 a week in coffee sales. I could earn enough labor through the business to hire someone for 20 hours a week to literally stand in the front and bus tables, greet people, give out
Mhm.
samples, and essentially be a busser, right?
Mhm.
And it's not really a traditional role at Starbucks, but I found this role in one of their, one of their sublines inside of their operating manual. And I found this cafe attendant role, and I'm like, that's it. That's the role. And so I basically looked at my management team. I said, hey, I'll transfer you guys out if you don't want to do this, because I know it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to be very hard. But I essentially need to double our sales because we need to hire this person, and I'm compelled to do it. I
Mm.
feel inspired to do this, and I have to do it. And so we're going to have to work 10 times harder, and and so much more happier and nicer and cleaner and better. And I get it if you don't want to do that because you get paid the exact same going to work at another Starbucks.
Mhm.
So leave now because this is way more important to me than you will ever be. So like
Mm,
if you
wow,
if you
okay.
believe in this, stay and help me, and like literally overwork yourself to do this, or say so now and leave, and I'll help you find a great place where you can make the same exact amount of money doing less work. And
Mhm.
none of my managers left.
Oh, wow, okay.
And we scaled the crap out of it, and we took a random suburban Starbucks to unbelievable revenue heights. And I recruited Jeremy and hired someone with Down syndrome to work in my store, and the business could legitimately earn it, and it wasn't a charity case or subsidized by the
Mhm.
government or by a nonprofit. It was just earned by the business. And that got the attention of the First Lady of California, Maria Shriver, whose family started the Special Olympics, and they're really big supporters of special needs. And she asked me if I would go and talk to corporations in California about hiring people with special needs. And
Mm.
I told her, I'm like, I'm not really good at the PC stuff. I'm not like, I just like, I don't treat Jeremy any differently. And she's like, no, that's what we want. Like, we want someone that like tells people how to make money doing this, because
Mhm.
that's like really interesting that you're doing that. And I'm like, totally. Like for example, someone would, they would always have someone come in with Jeremy, and I wouldn't let them like talk to us. I'm like, you can be here if you legally have to be here, but like be over there, like away from the staff and away from us. Like if he sucks, we're gonna tell him he sucks.
Right.
And if he sucks too many times, I'm gonna tell him he's gonna get fired. And if he's
Mm.
good, I'm gonna give him a high five and I'm gonna appreciate it. But he's gonna be treated like everybody else. There's no
Mhm.
special things that he gets. If he's late 3 times, he's fired. There's no bending the rules because he has special needs. That's just not okay. And so by not treating him differently, we were able to like have him be incredibly useful for the business. And I want to say that he was super happy and he loved working there. And I had a bunch of teachers come back to me and tell me like, what did you do? And how did you do that? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he has more command skills and conversational skills and confidence than we've ever seen him in school. Like it's like
Mhm.
unbelievable. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I did differently. All I know is I treated
Treat
him
him
exactly the
normally.
same. Yeah, treat him normally. And I threatened to fire him just like I threatened everybody else, that works there if they suck. I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
I just don't have any patience for lack of performance and merit. And if you do a good job, then you get rewarded, and if you do a bad job, you get punished. It's not personal; it's just business.
Yeah.
And he thrived. He thrived, and he learned, and he developed, and it was amazing. And then obviously, when the first lady of California calls Starbucks and they say, "Hey, can we have, can we film a mini series around this story, and then have one of your employees come out and speak to, the executives at all these other Fortune 20 companies?" It raises eyebrows, right? And
Mhm.
so I was kind of put on the map there as well too. So, and then what else did I do? I did a bunch of things, but the most notable thing was that I got chosen to be the spokesperson for Starbucks. So
Is
when
that where
Got
that
Milk,
that poster came from?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So back in the day, there used to be a big campaign for milk, and it was called the Got Milk campaign, and it was like a milk mustache, and
Mhm.
and there's all these like funny like commercials with like like peanut butter and then having no milk and then having your mouth gum up. It's pretty funny stuff. But long story short, they asked Starbucks to be the do a Got Milk commercial, and they did an internal search, and instead of hiring a model for it, so they wanted to pull someone from the stores. And so very luckily, and I got chosen for that, and so I was the spokesperson for Starbucks in two different ad campaigns.
Mm. Wow, that's a whole nother career. Like it seems like everything you do, you have like a whole like career batched down into like a moment in your life. But the way that you work, it sounds very similar to Steve Jobs and the whole Apple culture. I mean, hey, you're not special. I'm gonna fire you if you don't perform. It sounds like you would fit in well, especially in the early Apple days. Did you ever get a chance to meet or interact much with Steve Jobs?
Yeah, I've met him half a dozen times when he would come in the store. I mean, I'm not like conversing with them or having like, "Hey, so how's life? What do you think about this?" It's more like, "How are you, sir? Thank you for coming in. Let me know how I can help you. Here's my staff that's gonna take care of you and your needs." And then I just kind of make sure none of the customers get too close. I mean,
Hmm.
it's more just like zone control, like you know.
Yeah,
But that store was crazy, man. It wasn't. I mean, Steve was really. It was really,
that was the
really.
first store too, right?
Well, it was supposed to be, but it ended up being the second store because Palo Alto's permitting laws were a little bit more
I
stringent
see.
than we
But
wanted.
it
But
was the
yeah,
big one, the one they put up that was different from all the other. I remember reading the biography, and there was one that was just different from all the other stores.
the first one ended up being somewhere else, and I think it was actually in. Oh, I don't even know, but it was ended up being the second one, but it was supposed to be the first one.
I see.
And it wasn't that big actually. And so now if you go to Palo Alto, the store is much bigger because they moved 3 blocks down and across the street, and
Mm,
now it's really big. But back then it was a fairly small store, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, it was a crazy story because I mean, like we would have, I mean, like just titans of industry would come into that store, right? Like the CMO of Yahoo or the CTO of LinkedIn or Bill
wow.
Campbell, the $1 trillion coach, would come in, just like, like he's like, I want 8 iPhones. And we're like, oh, sorry, sir. We have an iPhone. This is back in the day. We have an iPhone limit. You can only buy one per customer. And he's like, oh, I'll just tell Steve to give me a couple when I see him next week. And I'm like, okay. And then you like go Google who he is, and he's like the chairman of the board of Apple, and he's like
What?
wrote the book, the $1 trillion coach. Like, yeah, he's just like a titan. And so it's just random people would walk into your store and everyone would say Steve sent me, like, oh,
Hmm.
Steve told me to come by, and it's just like it's very weird. It's very surreal. Yeah,
Hmm.
kind of
Was the
fun
work
experience.
was the work crazy there?
Yeah, it was the worst. Yeah, absolutely the worst. Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine like back then, there was no online ordering, and so it was just like absolute mayhem. Like you just had like I don't know how to explain it, man. Like it's like very innovative retail. That was like the first retail experience where there was no counter. So it was almost like museum like, and there was a
Hmm.
huge fervor, and people would camp out because you couldn't order online. So you like pre-order online. So you just camp
Hmm.
out for a week, and people would pitch tents, and like we'd have to feed them and stuff. It was crazy,
What?
man. It was like, I mean, you got to imagine back in the day, it wasn't like it is now, where you just like pre-order your new iPhone, and then you like order, and then it comes in the mail, and then
Pick
you
it up
ship
at
it
12
back.
p.m.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you camped out, and then they would run out of stock, and
Wow.
so yeah, we'd have to go count the people and say, like everyone gets one, so we know exactly where it stops, and say, hey, there's no more inventory after this. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's a weird time, man.
That it sounds like a rock and roll of like technology era.
Yeah, it taught me a lot about logistics for sure, and just like command skills and leadership skills and deployment and zone control, and really just like controlling conversations and crowd controlling, which is really kind of a weird skill. But you got to imagine that like there's no counters. So it's a weird thing to
Hmm.
explain to people, but my first day at Apple, like in my actual store after training, was like so unnerving because I trained in Roseville, and it was very cool. It was very calm. It was very sedated. They have
Uh-huh.
all these like cool trainings on how to talk like Apple, the customer steps of service. Like it was really cool and curated. And then you go to Palo Alto, and it's literally like 40 or 50 customers like per person wearing an Apple shirt, and
Wow.
everyone's screaming at you and literally grabbing your shirt and hitting you with their money. Like, I'm trying to give you $6,000. Why can't you take it and give me my computer? And it's just like, and you can't form a line. It's like, it was the weirdest experience. Like, I almost wanted to quit because I'm like, it feels dangerous because they're
Uh-huh.
so angry and frustrated that they want to give you so much money and you can't take it fast enough.
Mm. That's a good problem to have.
But
Honestly.
imagine having like every single employee being swarmed like that because there's no
With
line,
people
there's no
with thousands
counter.
of
And
dollars like slapping you
yeah,
with
and they're
it.
just furious. They're like furious because they're like, how is this even possible? I'm trying to give you money to get a product and I
Uh-huh.
can't get it fast enough. And you're like, Who was first again? And every staff member just has a circle of mob around you just trying to give you money.
So how did you control them? Like, what was the crowd control tactics that you learned?
Well, I think that people will naturally go into like this fervor or frustration, and you learn very quickly that you have to like immediately act casual and dominant, not in like a oppressive way, but you
Mhm.
want to basically like talk like it's normal. And hey,
Mm.
great, awesome. This is the way it's going to be. This is like how we're going to do it. We can't have you blocking the walkways because of X, Y, and Z. But like you just like if you reanimate it as like fear, and it shows, right, and then it gets a little bit
Mhm.
unruly. But um crowd control is weird, man. And then luckily I did a lot of crowd control work at Art and Wine Festival. So I was the chair of the Mountain View Art and Wine Festival for 3 years, and
Mhm.
I was the chair for that fundraiser, and it raised millions of dollars for six nonprofits in Mountain View. And it saw 200,000 people in 2 days, and it would take a
Oh,
year to
wow.
plan it. We would plan the entire year because it was just a massive fundraiser, and we
Mm.
would raise tons of money. It was like basically the operating capital for most of the nonprofits there. And so,
Mm.
luckily, I got a lot of experience doing crowd control because, man, I would not have been able to survive or last that early days in Apple if I didn't have those like experiences, working with large crowds and corralling large crowds and moving them through a street, and then they're drunk, and what I mean, trying to get them to move. So like, I didn't tell you about that experience, but that's also an experience I think is worth noting because you don't people always tell me like, oh, you're lucky because you got all these experiences and so that's why you're
Uh-huh.
successful. And it's like, that's not true. I'd say the most educational experiences I had have been through volunteer work. I've
Mm.
learned a ton of technical skills. I've learned more technical skills and leadership skills volunteering than I have at nonprofits than I have at work.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it seems like a cop out when people say that because
Mhm.
you can give back and like volunteer, and if you can't find a job, learn the skills that make you more competent and you can provide more value for those jobs.
Mhm. I
Anyways,
can definitely
that's my
see
little
that.
soapbox. Yeah.
No, that's a secret hack that most people don't know. It's like you can literally skip the like ladder per se by joining a nonprofit because they need your help. They'll give
Mhm.
you a high title position. You can get the skills, and now you have a year as like head of marketing or head of manager or leading these people at a nonprofit. The same skills that you would acquire at a job, and then you
That's
land
right.
that role. So it's literally a shortcut that most people don't know about.
Totally. I love that you already know that. That's wonderful. Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, and if you don't have a job anyways, like, what difference does it make?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know how mind numbing it is to like job search for 60 hours a week? Like, do 30 hours of job searching and 30 hours of volunteering, and learn those skills and get those skills and experiences notched under your belt. And God forbid you help your community out.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many ways. We're gonna have to have a part two on this podcast, but I want to get to the OC3 and like
Sure.
how you started. What was the origin story to OC3? I mean, you have all this tons of
Yeah.
experience, life experience. Like it sounds like every time you give a story, it's like the experience of like 10 people. So I'm just gonna say you have like 100-man experience before you get
That's
to
very
OC3.
funny and kind of you to say. I'll try to do it fast because I know that we're bumping up against time here. But the short of it is that, I guess it'll take me a few minutes, but it has to start with the fact that I started consulting. And when I
Mm,
started consulting, I started helping a lot of businesses at scale. And then when you start dissecting the act of consulting, you realize that you can like systematize it, and you can start charging more, or you can do more, and by systematizing it. So either way is you either charge more or you do more through systems, right? And once I started systematizing it, I started noticing all the similarities in all these different businesses, whether it was a life science, mental health, robotics, AI. It didn't matter.
mhm,
75% of the business is exactly the same. And so it's really
mm,
funny to me because every business thinks they're so unique and they're like a snowflake. And the reality is, the vast majority of it is still the same. You still
mhm,
need operations, you need marketing, you need to make money, you need to pay people, you need to have vendor costs. Like, it's all 75% of it's the same. And so once I figured that out, I systematized 75% of it that I thought was the standard across all of these companies. And then I started helping more companies at scale, and started doing really good at it. And I had a really high success rate. And so I started going, wow, this works really well. And so I started applying it to small businesses. And I
mm,
had a friend that asked me to coach her through her small business that she had for 7 years. And it works like 4 times faster on small business than on tech companies. And so I'm like, wow,
Mm,
this is really interesting because the impact on a service business that has cash in, cogs, and cash out is it's so direct. The arbitrage of value is not like a tech company. It's
mhm,
like a tech company, you're trying to like the arbitrage of value is so ephemeral because you're trying to like change the way people do things. And it's a disruptive nature that you're trying to like figure out. And that's the
mhm.
arbitrage of value. What disruption are you making? And in a service company or trades company, it's like you have a dirty pool. I clean your pool, you give me money, and the arbitrage of value is super clean. And so the changes that you can make in a service business or a trades business is so fast that they just scale so much quicker. And so I started adding more and more small businesses to it. And I helped like, I want to say like 20 companies like double in revenue, most of them making a million and more in less than a year. And I'm like, wow, this thing is really working well. And I was like, why am I helping all these people get rich? I should help myself get rich. And so I started using the system to build my own businesses. And so about 4 years ago, I started Blue Ocean Pool Service and made $1 million in 9 months in revenue. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this works. And so I've been building 3 businesses a year using my system. And then obviously, as you do this, people start noticing and they say, hey,
Mhm,
teach me, show me, and tell me how you do it. And so I started helping everybody I could. I helped all my friends and family and everybody. And I track every hour that I live, and I reassess how I spent my hours versus the outcome in life. I do a quarterly, semi-annual, and annual basis. But that
mm,
year, I'd spent like 260 something hours helping friends and family with their business and trying to help them like start a business or help them do something. And I found that only 6 people did something with it. I was like so angry because I'm
wow.
like, I'm trying to help every all of my friends and family that I'm like, they're like curious about how to do this. I'm trying to give
Mm,
them all this knowledge and give it to them for free. And only 6 people actually did anything with it that actually started a business or tried any of the tactics. And it was like
mhm,
so frustrating because 263 hours is taking away from me building a life that I want to help my community. And only 6 people actually activated on it. And so
mhm.
the following year, I had friends and family ask me, I just said, pay me $1,000 and I'll help you. And I just expected nobody to sign up. And 15 people paid me $1,000, and I'm like, "Oh crap! This is amazing." Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so then I had to like put them in a group and started program. Anyways, long story
Uh-huh.
short, that's the origin story of Owners Club. And now it's not $1,000 anymore. It's less. And we've launched a cohort training around it, and we do one-on-one coaching, and it's its own business now because it's just kind of grown. But the origin story of it was to help people with learn my operating system, but making sure they have skin in the game. And that's
Mhm,
really the origin story of Owners Club is that you have to want it, and you're literally like the information is out there, the tools are out there, but you have to want it, and
mhm,
it's really, really important that you spend the time and you feel committed to it because it won't work. There's no silver bullet in business. At the
mhm,
end of the day, you have to do the hard work. And I don't think that there's an easy button on any of it. And so that's what Owners Club, that's how it started anyways.
wow. Okay. So, Owners Club, OC3.
Yeah.
OC3, I love it. So,
Yeah.
there's so much here, and this might
Yeah.
be a hard question to ask, but if you had to distill all of your guiding principles for either life or business, I know you're a girl dad too. You have the Girl Dad podcast. I'm also a girl dad. I guess that's why we get along. But all this stuff that you do in life, if you had to
Yeah.
distill it down to top guiding principles for anybody to follow to win in life, what would you tell them?
For me now, in as I'm like mid 50s, pushing 50, I feel like the answer is very different than what it was even 5 years ago, right? But I will
Mm,
tell you right now, it's just be happy. Really do the deep work to figure out what makes
mhm,
you happy. Like it's, and I'm telling you, it's not. Sometimes, most of the times, it's not even money. And
mm,
really figuring that out and doing the deep work because you could be happy just gardening making less, and if you could figure out what that happiness is, it's way more valuable than what society tells you you should be
mhm.
successful at and what happiness looks like. It's all bullshit, like. And especially as I get older, none of my friends care how much money I make or what I do, like, and I can already tell when I'm like 70 or 80 they're going to care even less, and my
Mhm,
kids are going to care less. And like it's something that I wish I knew when I was younger, that I'm like, so caught up in this hype of success. What logo company am I working at? What title do I have? How much money I'm making? And as I start to crest, into midlife and push into 50, I just like realize that none of that matters. What only thing that matters is what makes you happy, and do you have something that contributes to that happiness? And
Mm,
really focusing in on that, because you'll waste 40 years trying to chase something that society tells you to chase, and it's complete bullshit. You should
mm,
just chase what makes you happy, and more often than not, it's not money.
mm. Okay. That's powerful. That's
Is
like
that weird?
that's probably
It's
not
the
the
same.
answer that most people expect, but what were you about to say?
It's the same thing that I tell business owners, right? It's
Mm,
like don't don't build a business, because I sell a system that helps you make $1 million in your business in annual
mhm,
revenue. That's like the shtick, right? And I've reverse engineered how to make $1 million business. But the reason why I say make $1 million in revenue in business is not because I want you to be rich. It's because then you actually have 150,000 on average. A small business or a service business should make around 15% margins, right?
mhm,
That's kind of the industry average for the entire country. Okay. So software startups like yourself will probably make even more, right? Like 50 or 60% margins. Okay. But let's just say it's 15%. If you can figure out how to make $1 million in revenue business, you have $150,000 a year in free cash flow. Are you
mhm,
tracking like with this rough math, right? It's very rough math.
mhm,
But if you have $150,000 a year in free cash flow, you now have the ability to go hire a GM or a operator to go run your business for you, or you can use that and live a really great life. That's the only
mhm,
reason why I push for a million, not because I want you to make a lot of money, because I want you to have the liquidity and the security to go chase what you actually want to do.
mhm,
It's more about time freedom than it is about making more money. And that's why I'm stuck on the $1 million thing. So people get confused a lot, because like they think that I expect them to make a lot of money and they should go for it. And I'm like, no, not at all. Like my
mhm.
dream is to clean 10 pools a week with my daughters. That's like my dream retirement, is like I want to like I want to be a part of my pool cleaning company, and clean 10 pools a week with my kids. And that would be a dream. That would be the most amazing life ever, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that. It's basically buy your freedom, but figure out what makes you happy. And you said something in one of the coaching classes that stuck too, and I've been saying this as well. But it's like if you're doing something that sucks and you're just doing it for the money, you pretty much just have like what like a fancy job for yourself that sucks. So you need to really just focus on what what makes you happy in anything that you do. That was what I took from it anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You got the lesson exactly right. Like at the end of the day, like I have now learned that I don't know as much as I should. And the older I get, the more I realize the less I know, and the more I need to lean on my mentor's advice. And so it kind of goes back to this old proverb of like, a smart man learns from his own mistakes, a wise man learns from others.
Hmm.
And I used to have a really hard time with that in my 20s and 30s, because I just felt like I was like the coolest kid in the room, right? And then as I get into my 40s and 50s, I'm just realizing, God, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything. And I listen to my mentors, and my mentors and people that are a little more senior in age, and they always tell me like, at the end of the day, like all of that matters is you just being happy, and figuring
Hmm.
out what works for you. And second of all, like you gotta like optimize your business, but like don't over optimize it, because you won't know, like you won't have, it's a matter of like finding purpose, right? So it's
Hmm.
like you won't know if people will be there for you if you over optimize everything, right? And so the reality is, it's not the point I'm trying to make. I can't really say much. I don't know why I brought this up, because I can't even say it on the podcast. But the gist of the story and the punchline is, be happy, and
Hmm.
do what makes you happy, and that usually comes with having the financial freedom to go do the things that make you happy, versus having to do stuff that you hate, right? Or having to do stuff that you have to do.
Hmm.
And if you can figure out the trifecta of being getting paid for what you love, being great at what the world needs, and the world needing it, and all those things, I think it's like ikigai, right? Like
Yeah, ikagi
yeah,
or ikage.
if you can figure that out, wonderful. But the chances of you figuring that out are like winning the lottery. So my recommendation is learn how to make money using a skill that's valuable,
Hmm.
systematize it, and then go figure out the rest of it. Because now you have the
Mm,
financial freedom to go do that.
right. Okay. Amazing. Well, this has been great, Young Han. Thank you for coming on the podcast. We're going to have a part two because I had a ton of other questions I wanted to go down a thread,
Yeah.
but this is great. So, where can people find you? Give us all the plugs. What do you offer? Anything that you want to just let the world
Yeah. So,
know.
yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on. And I love that you're a girl dad as well. It's fantastic. Girl dad for life. It's awesome. So, if you want to be, if you just want one central place to kind of just like understand and follow along and understand how to work with me, there's a website called alwayshan.com. Always Han, HAN, my last name.com. And so it's kind of a play on words that I'm always on. It's just a
I
joke.
can see that.
Um, but that'll link you to all my portfolio companies, all the ways you can work with me, and it's kind of a central place. But if you're a business owner trying to build systems to get to the $1 million mark, owners.club or oc3.com, either one of those will work. And then if you're a business that's trying to scale and punch above their weight class and you want a fractional CFO or fractional finance or operation support, thesis.inc.
All right, guys. I just dropped the keys for you. So don't sleep on this. Reach out to Young. And I hope you enjoyed this episode and got a ton of value. And until the next one, I will see you later.